So if you've ever poured your heart into a piece of content and spent hours creating it, perfecting it, putting it out into the world, just to see it flop, you know how bad that feels and how disappointing it is and how disheartening it can be as well. You start to sort of question yourself and you think, I wonder if it's just out to get me, the algorithm, or am I just late to the party? You know, you start to blame yourself every step of the way. That's where I was. And then all of a sudden, I just figured it out and something clicked. And I just did 0 to 20 million views from a standing start on TikTok in like a matter of months. And more than that, it generated £10,000 to a brand new business that I didn't even mean to make. So I'm going to share that story with you, how I did it. Let me show you this. This first video here, trying to cut a McDonald's cheeseburger perfectly in half. We've got a bit of friggin' lopsided bun, which is never good. We're relying on the gherkins and things being evenly distributed on the inside. Cutting on the pull should help with the bread. Slowly does it. Oh, got some resistance. I'm hitting a gherkin. We're through. Get some filling on there. I'm gonna go for the gherkin on this side. Going for the scales. Half number 1, 62. Half number 2. Oh, nowhere friggin' near. So this first video here did 2.5 million views on a brand new account. Who would have thought cutting a cheeseburger in half would change my life so much? So let me take you back a few years. I was a musician. I was working with a subsidiary of a major label. And I was pouring every ounce of energy into music, but not just into music, into content that would actually get me seen to get me in that position in the first place. So I wasn't a stranger to social media, but I'd never had any viral success or anything like that. I was just sort of ticking away and I was pretty consistent. But suddenly the rug was just completely pulled from under me and my income vanished and I found myself in just a 9 to 5 that I hated, and such is the nature of that industry, I guess. But it kind of left me questioning sort of what had gone on, you know, my own value, and just sort of feeling like a bit of an imposter. And just feeling like just because I'd achieved something once didn't mean that, you know, that it meant anything. You had to be able to repeatedly achieve those things for it to mean anything, because it could just be taken away from you. And what was worse, the worst part was I was about to become a dad as well. So I had the weight of that friggin' responsibility weighing down on me as well. And I just, it felt like every second before that happened was just sort of slipping through my fingers. I guess I saw social media as this big opportunity, and it was just a platform where I could just generate millions of views, and that would convert to an audience, which would convert to leads, which would convert to sales. So I knew I could generate a small business utilising social media. I just didn't know how to crack the code on the hardest bit, which is the views, which was the most important bit. It was like the key to unlocking everything else. And it wasn't just about money. It was about sort of creating a life where I could sort of spend a lot of time at home with my son that was about to be born, escape that 9 to 5 that I just couldn't stand. And then deep down, I think it was just because I doubted myself and I just wanted to prove that, you know, I could get back to where I was and sort of do that again. But, you know, the pressure of becoming a new dad as well, the flip side of it was that, you know, I was going to be gambling my time, and ultimately I was just relying on what I now know is sort of hope marketing and guesswork, where you just, you know, your entire strategy is just throw things at the wall and hope that it sticks. And it isn't the way to go. You need something sustainable and predictable if it's going to be profitable. I just made that up right there. No, I didn't make it up, that's true, but I just mean that little friggin' saying just there. So, like I say, I knew that despite my doubts, I had this vision that if I could crack this code, I could build this audience, and then the business would just fall into place. But I didn't really know how I was going to do that. I just knew that there had to be a way of like sort of unlocking the formula that would just lead to that happiness and independence and things like that. So, you know, it was still a bit of hope at that point, but I knew that if I just sort of worked at it, it could be something more strategic, I suppose. I had two kind of big struggles though. The first one is that I was already creating good content and it wasn't converting. And I was spending anywhere between 20 and 40 hours on top of my working week making this content that then wouldn't generate any views, even though it was really well filmed, edited, scripted, all those sorts of things. And everything online just alluded to the fact, all these like gurus sort of alluded to the fact that you could just sort of be consistent and have a good hook and a payoff and use the right hashtags and appease the algorithm in a way that was really simple and it would just deliver results. And yet, I was trying all those things and it wasn't delivering results. So that just felt like a load of rubbish. And it was a load of rubbish, by the way, as well, because none of those things really had an impact at all once I cracked the code on what did work. And then the other big struggle was just like, how was I going to combat this, pressure and imposter syndrome and find something that would generate sort of a secure home life and stuff? Because, it's all well and good having this dream of just utilising social media to form a business and making money that way and have all this freedom that you crave. But like, realistically, you can't just quit your job to pursue that, can you? So it was like, how could I find a simple way to sort of do that concurrently that would then lead to me being able to take that risk and take that plunge? And it came a lot quicker than I was expecting as well, which was nice. But I didn't know that at the time. My big breakthrough came... people always ask me, how did I come up with the idea of going halves? And I always joke and just say, you just need to have the best idea you've ever had in the bath, which is kind of true, because that's what I did. I was in the bath and I just had the idea for it. But there was, more at play behind the scenes, I guess, in terms of what I was thinking about that led me to that idea. And I'd been trying, like I said, hooks and hacks and all the things like that. And I just realised it was more than a hook, it was a value proposition, and it was more than an outcome, it was something measurable. And I also had this epiphany, which was that the concept had to be bigger than the brand. And what I mean by that is that, even now with 20 million views, even though it's a faceless channel, which was accidental, by the way, people do identify me based on my voice and my tattoos and things like that. They don't always know the name of the channel, but they always just know the concept and the format and the content. And that's because it lives in its own right, way above the brand. Just the videos themselves are that good. They just exist on their own. And then what that does, which is, probably another conversation, but it sort of hits all these trigger points like trust and credibility and reciprocity, so people feel like they owe you things and stuff like that, and that leads then to sales, effectively, to customers. But I didn't even know that at the time. I just realised that I needed this concept that was just going to exist on a platform in its own rights, and it couldn't be like trying to drive people to a product or a service, because a cold audience just doesn't care about those things. So I had all the skills I needed, and I had a frigging cheeseburger and a Japanese handsaw. What else was I going to do but cut the bad boy in half? So I just filmed it, and in that particular occasion I filmed it really well, in that, somebody said to me in the comments, why does it look like Wes Anderson's filmed cutting a cheeseburger in half? And, because I've got this top-down shot and this front-facing shot. But I think the thing with it is it's just playing with people's perception. So, like, I over-delivered on that because, like, I had no business spending that much time and energy on cutting a cheeseburger in half. So, like, people loved that. But, like, the opposite's true as well, that if you were doing, like, stranger content, you'd probably want to reduce the quality, film it on an iPhone, because, like, you want it to feel authentic and organic. And I think that people get caught up thinking that the filming and editing process is the be-all and end-all, but it's not. It's just delivering that value and packaging it in a way that is native to platform, but also kind of encapsulates what you need it to encapsulate. And in my case, it needed to be like an over delivery of something ridiculous, and that's what I did. And even with that, though, the plan wasn't grand or complicated. And that was the point. It was just simple. It was satisfying. It was packaged specifically for TikTok and short form content, but specifically TikTok. And it was easy to understand, visually captivating, and it just like offered something different that I could embed messages into, but without that being the content, and that was the concept bigger than the brand, and it had this measurable outcome as well, which I think is important. Not every time, but I think for that it was important. But at that point, when the first video did 2.5 million views, I still had a remaining conflict in that suddenly I was averaging 500,000 views a video, and you would think, oh, well, you must be ecstatic about that. But no one prepares you for that level of virality for a start off, and people just clinging on every word that you're going to say. And I can't really even put into words like what that does to you. So if you didn't have sort of an ultimate goal or a business attached to it, these creators that just kind of do that many views with no wider purpose or business or brand, I can't imagine what that would do to your head, because it's easier to sort of digest and accept and sort of roll with the punches when you know that it's part of something bigger. But that was like one thing I wasn't prepared for at all, and I don't think anyone can be. But the other thing was that I couldn't shake this feeling, this imposter syndrome still, and this feeling that like what happened with the label where like things could just be taken away from me. And so even though I was doing good things on that channel, I didn't want that to be, my only outlet, because if that stopped working or got taken from me, then I'd be in the same position I was in last time. So what I did was I set out to replicate the process, and I just tested it, and I started a second channel, completely different niche, and it was in music, and I applied the same principles but changed the content completely, because I didn't want it to just be like a one-trick pony. I wanted to know that I had a deeper understanding of what was going into that. And the first video on that channel did 100,000 views and in the first day, and then it did 500,000 views in the first 3 weeks, I think, off the top of my head. And I just knew at that point I'd cracked the code. And within that first 4 months, the TikTok racked up 20 million views, and I'd just done it, and the concept worked. But more importantly, it was simple and repeatable concepts that were predictable and could be used to then build business. And so that's what I began to do. I started to get loads of people contact me when they'd sort of see me do that many views in different groups and things like that. And I didn't know, like, if I could, at this point, I didn't know if I could do it for other people. I didn't know if I was in a position where I could make that happen for other people. It turns out I was. I put like 5 sort of small business creators, or brand creators, through my process, and all of them, well, first one 10x of views, the next 2 did over 60,000 views on the first videos they did, and then just continued to grow. It was so formulaic. And it wasn't that things are out to get you. You just needed to know how to crack the code. And I have a background as a qualified teacher, which helped. So then I just, merged my worlds and started to teach other people how to do that. And within the first 4 months, I'd done £10,000 in the business. And it was just clear that that was going to be my life from there on out. My baby was born. It was really healthy. £7 one. I know that doesn't matter. So from there, if you want to see how I took 5 creators, put them through this process and generated them money for their business and views for their business, then watch this video, wherever it is up here. Or if you want to just book a chat with me and talk about how I might be able to find it for you, then just click on the link below and book a call. Bye. Cheers. Bye. Thanks. Love you. Bye.